Oh, well, before the break, we did a quick review of the stuff we've seen over the last 2.5 weeks, the version control stuff, and next up, well, we saw remote the other day. We're going to be moving on to looking at GitHub. I believe everybody saw that before, but generally on GitHub, we're going to pull stuff on our computers, and it's going to be identical to what we did on the remote. We did it from another folder, probably the downloads folder, over to documents folder, but the same thing. It's just somewhere else, and we can pull it down, and we'll do those same things over and over again, right? We run the log, get the names, run the and get branch to see what branch we're on, which one we're looking at. Get checkout to switch between branches. Then we can see what was happening at that particular commit, and our the contents of our folder do change along the way. List things out, which there's different commands for that, depending on the terminal you're in, and then get commit with a commit number, or really that's referred to as the commit name. Oops, not commit. I'm sorry, I don't know why I typed that. Get check out that number. So the same way we would do the checkout, we would switch to another one, and now we can go all the way back and look at the very original version. Except that we also have a file we're not tracking, and that file is not being tracked, so it doesn't get removed when we look at other versions. But those are the commands we run over and over and over again. Get switch branch name would make this thing we're looking at a different one, or if we want to cancel this, get switch dash. And that gets us back to where we were. But those things, so you probably noticed that's what we do over and over again. Run our log, check our log, check the branches, check out different branches, ignore the errors, and check out different commits. And that's where we get all our version control stuff from. Does it locally, but in the modern world, we're not restricted to our local machines. Y'all know where this is heading. The most popular place to apply this is GitHub. The name says it all. It's a hub. That's like the hub of a wheel. Everything on the Git protocol comes together. It's the central, sort of a centralized thing, but it is a distributed system. Started as an open source project that was not affiliated with Git. It was just for somebody's random open source project. Kind of spread nicely, and a couple years back, Microsoft acquired it, and they've been making adjustments. A lot of adjustments this year. So sometimes we get error messages because they updated things on GitHub since we last pulled our code down from GitHub. We're not really restricted. We can make multiple accounts and put as many repositories as we want in an account. Set them up as private and public, and everybody's seen that part, right? So let's create a new one. This is where your assignment is this week. So create a new repository and basically just give it a name. To be unique, but notice that your account name is part of that name, so it just needs to be unique to your account. I'm going to upload that one we did right before the break. That seems like a good one to do. Normally we would put a description here, but since we already have a repository, it's easiest to go to a completely blank one. Choose public or private. Can add a readme. We already have a readme in this thing. And ignore. Notice that's one of the ones that it suggests right off the bat with templates. So a bunch of things already set up. Normally we would do a license. The most common open source licensing is already here. So Apache, GNU, MIT, BSD, the big ones, they're just like, yeah, this is open source code. Do whatever you want with it. The original creator is not liable for it. So we want to include that normally, but I'm going to skip that for now just because if we already have the existing repository, it's easier to send to a blank one. Normally, I would go ahead and put a description, do the README here, and a license, and then to start it on my local machine, then I would pull it down to my local machine. So going a little bit out of order here, but go ahead and create that. And we got this big blank page. Well, not quite blank, because just like we saw with Git, they followed, the people at GitHub followed suit from Git and gave us a really nice error message about a blank page, where they told us what instructions to type on there. I think we need, oh, they even showed how to create a README. We need the second one. Notice it's a complete copy and paste. We don't have to put, actually don't even have to highlight it. They gave us the copy button. So we can just copy this and bring it all down. I'm going to type it in. So I'm going to come back over to my computer, open the terminal, Windows X, and navigate back into that thing I should have just left open a moment ago. Review. So here's that repository we had right beforehand. Make sure I'm on the branch I want and everything. Git checkout main. We should be looking at the latest version. Yeah. So you can clone a repository. We saw clone and pull the other day. And if we cloned it, if we tried to clone that repository, it would overwrite all of our stuff here. Pull automatically does a merge. So we wanted to pull it. So we need to set up the remote origin just like we did to the downloads folder. I think everybody's seen this part before. I hope you've seen this part before. This is what you should have seen in that one lesson that keeps showing up in a bunch of different classes. And the reason I wanted to make an actual Git class so we can see all this stuff. Git remote, add an origin. And we wanted to add an origin to this repository. And the address is right here. The difference between this address and the web address is that it has the file extension, the .git. That's the only difference. So we want to go to HTTPS protocol. That's often not mentioned in the online classes. // is how you say protocol. So on some systems, if you're like accessing your downloads folder, you might need to say files // or sometimes you might want to do FTP // or SSH protocol. // means protocol. Anytime you see that, where this is github.com/ the username / the name you set up for it, and then .git extension. So then we can check that. So git remote show tells us we have the origin. We can rename that. Origin is the typical name for it. It kind of makes sense for what it is. The source, the place we're connecting to. Git remote show origin. And we see the same thing. So we can fetch stuff from that, and we can push stuff from that. Anybody's allowed to fetch things from any repository, any public repository. You can pull stuff all day long. The access control happens when you push it back up. Not everybody can change the repository. Anybody can look at what's there, but you restrict who's allowed to change what's there. That's what forks are for, really, and branches. So we can pull that down, git pull origin, and I'm going to pull the main branch.
Shouldn't you be pushing, not pulling?
Good. I was gonna pull that. I was gonna pull a connection to it, but yes. Oh yeah. I was gonna pull first because I planned on putting a README or something there, so that we had some files. If you have files, you want to pull them first, but yes, and then when you're done, I guess I would have to put a file there to pull it. I guess I could real quick, but I'll just keep with this. I was originally gonna do that and change my mind and forgot to change my mind. We don't have anything to pull down. There is no remote reference on them. There is no main branch. We haven't made a commit yet. Sorry, that's from the long day. I went back to the original plan because I changed that plan like 3 weeks ago. I changed that plan the first week of class and went back to the plain one. We went to push to the origin and the main branch. There we go. Yes, you were correct, Nathan. Sorry, I'm getting absent-minded from the long busy day. Silly mistake, but if there was any files there, you would pull first, and then that automatically merges them with your local files, so that there's no inconsistencies when you push them back up. So now if we come back over here and reload this, we should see all that stuff will come on there. Notice the timestamps. They're not our timestamps from just now. It did bring the timestamps from when we get reported that. Relative time, we saw the difference between relative time and absolute time, and we have different control over it. There where it says 3 commits, here's where we go in and can see our log. That's like our log. So we open this up. Oh, that's just the file that was changed. Oh yeah, I didn't do a log, did I? I just did the quick message. Unless there's one here. Well, apparently didn't do any log. But this takes it a step further, and notice that now I didn't put the log there. I don't know if y'all have seen that. Hopefully y'all have seen that before, or visualize what it would look like. But we have it turns the log into a form style thing. That's one of the first nice features of it for the teamwork. Everybody's seen GitHub before, so we're going to focus on the teamwork aspect. So even in an already existing log, you can come back and add a comment on it. Attach files, things like that. Oh, there it is. So the name, I did put a message there. There's what we would say when we view the log locally. And the addition that will be useful for teamwork is it's now a forum, so that your teammate, right, we want to keep track of things, so maybe only one person is actually allowed to push. Everybody else just tells that, makes comments about what that person needs to change, or the GitOps person. Like the rest of the team looks through there and puts the debate on whether to keep or delete a branch down here in the comments. Makes it easier to keep track of. One branch, there should be multiple branches. Didn't delete those, did we? Nope. So notice only one of them came up. So we probably need to push the other ones as well. Git push origin additions. Git push origin words. So now we have our repository recreated, or we should. Reload this, okay. Now we see all the different branches. And I'm not a big fan of this view. They indent the ones that they indent the launch off another branch. I think they're on a web page. There's so many better ways we could display that graphically than indenting the starting point. But you can kind of see what's going on. It's still something, so you can see it. We can go in there, link right back to that particular branch, jump back and forth between them, see all of them. This is one of the buttons that Microsoft added. These 4 here, they're new this year, so we can see all the branches. That's always been there. But one of the things Microsoft added, every once in a while, Microsoft does things really, really nicely. They do things so great. It's like, oh yeah, that's why Microsoft has that big name. Because there's so many things that Microsoft does that that makes us question why they have their place in the world. And then they do really nice things, like for the teammates. So these are branches you created. Remember that error message we looked at the beginning of the class tonight? Here's where we would see that listed out explicitly. Go look and see what branches people are currently working on, which is incredibly useful if you're on, like, with modern software development, like Facebook's recent projects, right? That last one that required 43,000 programmers. And then the news released the 11,000 layoffs because the next project, they were successful and the next project only needed 32,000 programmers. So they all left on it. Unlike layoffs at like a local factory where it's suddenly everybody's upset, those that left Facebook left with a really, really nice severance package and are able to put that they were a developer at Facebook with a good reference. Layoff never, I guess technically it fits the definition, but it just doesn't seem like a layoff. They're all in really, really good positions. Their severance packages they could all start their own software development companies. So just because Facebook downsized, that's the opposite of bad for the software development period, because those 11,000 people have huge severance packages, great references on their programming experiences, and a lot of them are going to be starting their own private companies now. So it's going to be better for the thing overall. Stale branches, we'll talk about that soon, and sort of a brief summary, different view of them. Create new ones, jump back to the code here. Overview, we see the README, thin header and thick headers, the differences between those. You can play around with, it'll display the markdown language, but it's in a browser. I personally use HTML almost exclusively instead of the markdown language. Because we can put an HTML style tag in there and start putting CSS and make it look really, really nice. With HTML, there's a video tag. So we can just, y'all have probably seen that on some of them. I know one that has it. If you have git bash, admin on git bash. Is it this one? Oh, it went right to the GitHub repository. Maybe I'll just spell it out. Oh, git bash sudo. There it is. That's right, it's in bash. So if you want to have admin privileges in your git bash shell, you can do this. If you use HTML in there, you can just set it up as videos. Is there not a video? I used to have a video here. Oh, there it is. Yeah. So instead of spelling it out, because they figured people probably wouldn't want to read, they just made a video for you just watch what's going on to install their thing. So with HTML, we can just throw those in there, and it's shown in the browser, so it's no problem to put those in there. So yeah, I just searched sudo on git bash in order to find that. I tried to do admin, and then you have administrative privileges on your Windows machine from your bash prompt, which can be really, really nice. Y'all seen a lot of this. If we click here, the commit, the whole, we can get back to all the history. Y'all have seen all that stuff before, right? There's that hexadecimal name that we've been using. You've probably seen that before and not realized what it was. Now you hopefully know what that number means. How we get back to our the commit we're looking at. Yeah, this is how I always eventually get to the history. I go in here to see the history, commit details, all that stuff. You can go in the files. I'll just go and get attributes. Oh, notice what didn't come up. That one we're not tracking still exists on the local machine, but we're not tracking it, so it didn't come up. It didn't make it on. This is only the repository. It's not like the local folder. So if you wanted that, you would probably want to bring it over separately, which you probably would. That's where the upload file button comes really useful. Let's go to README. This one's new for Microsoft too. We have the stuff, the file list here, so we don't have to go back a step every time. We can just navigate between our file explorer. There's no other folders here. We have all the files right up here. Oh, not that button. Oh yeah, under edit. You go under edit. Zoom stuff's in the way. And edit in place, type it right here. Or what you're probably going to do is click this, and GitHub.dev is the Electron framework. So those of you who use VS Code should be familiar with this. There's an instance of the Electron framework, and just like VS Code, it's from Microsoft. So basically all they did is say new object, new object, new object, new object, and they didn't change any parameters from the default. So it's an awful lot like VS Code. They didn't put black on the style sheet. So I guess it's the one thing that they did on VS Code away from the default, they didn't do here. It's Microsoft. But if you're familiar with that, you can do all of that. Amazon, the AWS, they have their own Git repository in their version of the Electron framework, which does have a black style sheet and a whole bunch of different changes in the background. Even the front end, it looks almost identical to VS Code, but they changed tons of stuff in the background. And they have a Git repository there. So this is how you would interact with theirs. Cloud9, if you use that in AWS. Do you really use that in AWS? I have it activated. I have the AWS Cloud Developer active right now. I'm going to add everybody to that, and we're going to do something with the Git and Electron framework there at some point. I'll figure out what to do, but at some point I will add all of y'all to that shell, which not a bad one to look through, at least the labels and stuff, to kind of see the state of modern software development. It's a good place to see what modern software developers need to learn, and or what you would need to study up on to pass the AWS Cloud Developer Associate certification. I'm reviewing it to try to bring that as a course. It's a lot for one course, but on your way through the software development program, you've seen all of the stuff, so it might be good near the capstone or something. And everyone to AWS. That note in there. So yeah, we have a place to edit now, and I haven't figured out how to leave this except with the back button. There probably is. Oh, and when I tried logging in from multiple machines, it let me edit. It did not like files, so it let me edit from both accounts and try to save both accounts without problems. I don't know if that's fixed. That will surely be a fix soon when they know about it. But if you're doing that, be careful. Even though we already saw tonight that Git natively locks everything, Microsoft just put the Electron framework in there recently, and it does not lock the files. I was able to log on um, and edit the same file at the same time, and got problems. I haven't figured out how to get back except the back button. They didn't seem to put an exit button in there. The Electron framework didn't come with an exit button, so they didn't put one in there. So that might be a good place for the whole right click and open in a new tab. I think everybody's familiar with that, right? Comes in necessary at times. But I think there's still more changes coming to that. It's there, so you'll know. Settings, let's look over here. Lots of things we can change. This is basically the replacement of the config file. We go through the slow moving GUI where we have to use our mouse on everything to set up the configuration for it. And environment, the hooks, code spaces we're using, different things we'll set up. Tags, we'll get to those in a moment. So I thought those were it. One that we'll use a lot before long, I think it's part of your group project, is you do get to host one website from this. So your official documentation, right? I'm always going to have those web page generators in the comments, or should. So then you'll generate some official documentation to accompany all your code, and you can host one thing, which you put the code in your repository. I have one. This one. So here's some custom Arduino libraries that are set up. So have the oxygen comments. So set up something for one of the website generator in the comments, build all that stuff, and then up at the top line of it, along with the actual project itself, is this docs folder with all the HTML and all of the files that were, all the stuff that was generated by that. So and then over on pages, I said, go ahead and launch that so we get all the documentation stuff for it. Custom libraries for little modules save time when trying new ideas. Because sometimes it takes a whole bunch of things just to wire up the basic stuff just to try an idea. So that was all that was, just custom. Some libraries to accelerate prototyping on microcontrollers. But we can host one web page out there. I'd like to run one, yes. So under settings, under pages, and it just goes into a folder traditionally called docs. Microsoft, when they took over, that was one of the first changes they made, is we don't have to call it docs in order to load the pages from there. But that's what we're putting there. That's what that's for, is your official documentation on the project. So docs does just make sense for the name of the folder. I still call everything docs, but you'll put a folder right there in your repository somewhere to get that. Insights, lots of information about your repository. I believe I asked for a couple of things in the homework assignment, like come over here and look at some things. Dependency graphs are useful. I started to put it in a text message last night, and then the text message got long, so I deleted it. Do you know how to make a manifest for your project? Yeah. We will look at that at the end of class. It's really, it's like a ship manifest, right? It tells the captain everything that's on their boat and why it's on their boat. We need to do that for software development projects, and you're using those MIDI libraries. So anybody that downloads and tries to run your project we want to have all those MIDI libraries installed by default. So I'll show you how to do that. It's really, really easy. It's mostly automated. If you don't have a manifest, your dependency graph has a link to a bunch of links about the standard manifest files. So in Python, probably using either Poetry or Camel, Yarn's getting work on either Poetry, what's the other, or so pip. You're either going to use requirements or pip file. Actually, you would use both of those, or requirements, pip file, pip lock, and setup. Different versions, and those are the standard types of manifests. If you use one of those, you don't have to tell GitHub it's a manifest. When we go hit the publish button, it'll automatically tell the PyPeople site that this is the manifest. You don't even have to say what it is. If you use something else, you just have to tell GitHub what manifest you use. But I always like that because that's a great way to learn about it. Is if you don't have a manifest, you get a link to descriptions of the manifest that it automatically recognizes. That's the libraries it depends on. Anything that's not part of the default installation of the language, the traditional usage of manifests like the ship manifest tells the captain everything that's on their boat and why it is on their boat. And going back to prehistory, if there is something on the captain's boat that is not on the manifest, the captain is within their rights to throw that thing right off their boat in the middle of the ocean. The whole stowaway thing, right? It's not on the manifest, it gets kicked off the boat. Same thing with the project. Keep track of all that stuff. Why is it part of this software? What is it part of this software? And why is it part of this software? Want to keep track of all that. Types of code, there's no code here, so yeah, if I go to one of my other ones, oh, here's one. Y'all are going to use this one. Oh, module 4 next week. So all of these have errors, and they're marked under issues. That's something I'll look at in a moment. But I came over here, and you'll just choose 2 of those, a bug or something that says bug and something that says invalid, and that gives us more details of this right here. What languages are in there? Which I need to find out what all languages you all know to add, maybe add more stuff, see what's there. History of all the commits. All the details. Traffic, there's nothing useful here. I can look at this other one though. If I go to that one that I was just on, which I guess I could have just left open. So we're going to talk about issues in a second. And under insights and traffic, you can see that there's been several visitors at different times. 9 unique visitors. I don't know, we're all looking at this. I put in the README exactly what it was, like there's a bug in every one of these files. So I suspect that's former students that just kind of stumbled across that and like, oh, let's see if I can fix that. So they look through and see if they can fix it. They should be really, really easy to fix. It's little typos basically. I wasn't trying to trick you up with the bugs. I was going to show the issues tab is what that's about. So we'll look at that in a moment. The commits that were made, now I have that on the graph. All of them came from today. 3 commits from one color of line means 1 unique committer. 1 person committed all that stuff. It shows by the whole week, specify the time things. You see there's lots of stuff there. Who all contributed to it? So the team project management stuff, that's what we're going to look at again, because that's the part you probably had. I suspect you probably haven't seen much, even though most of you all have probably encountered that in another class. And you were given a group project and you had to do it on GitHub in a very short amount of time, where there wasn't much time to learn about GitHub because we had to learn about Python per se, or something like that. Definitely look through those. Forks are other people. It's for open source projects. And, we had something, oh, I know some people have worked off of. Let me pull up one of my repositories. So over here, I have, this one's been forked off of and multiple times and been separated into entirely new projects. Well, this one has as well. Looking for one called Creatures, and that pop-up keeps getting in the way. I just skipping past it. Show examples review. There it is. So this is a button for Blender. So starting point on a bunch of animals and human shapes. So instead of starting with a cube and then modifying that into a nice 3D model, what takes the longest amount of time is getting all the proportions correct. So I spent a lot of time doing research, finding out all those proportions. So like the differences between an Eastern cottontail and a jackrabbit, right? There's subtle differences in the proportions, the length of the legs, the length of the ears. Dogs that live in Arctic climates versus the other ones, and made a bunch of starting points. So then the artist doesn't have to waste that first couple hours getting the proportions correctly, and the good artist can just work on the details. This has been worked off of many times and split off, and that's just other people. They would find that it's a new button for Blender, like, oh, I have some ideas I can add to that. So they would go over there and create a fork off of it instead of commenting and be like, oh, this would be a good thing here, and go over to Insights and fork off of that, and they get a completely new repository. That's their thing. Like, I don't have permission to go upload to their thing to make changes on their repository. It becomes their project. So the whole open source thing. We can fork off of anybody's the idea behind open source. We see something we like, we can fork off, make our own version of it, and extend it to fit our needs. And those forks can stay connected, or they can be separated. If they stay connected, they can still contact or we could still contact the original repository owners and make a pull request to put our changes back on that official original one. Or we can separate it and make something entirely new. Dig through there, there's some useful stuff. Pulse is sort of a summary of it. We'll talk briefly about security. I think everybody's familiar with security in the modern world. Security for software developers, since we have so much control, is at a different level. I don't know if y'all have looked into it or not, but most like secure coding certifications, in case you've wondered why there's not a class for those, most of those require years of experience to begin with. 5 to 10 years experience coding before you can even sit for the secure coding certification. There are some entry-level ones, but yeah, there are some entry-level ones you can get right away, and then you have something on your resume that says secure coding. But the big, highly respected ones, those require 5 to 10 years experience, because security for the programmer is different than security for the person that's just going to enter the password and type in the code from their phone. Right? The programmer has a different level of access to the machine. So security is an entirely different field. They want to make but we will talk about that soon. Oh, wiki. So there's a wiki. Wikis are different than we README. Think Wikipedia. So over in settings, we saw pages where we would host a website to have the official documentation. The wiki would be more like the fact page, the frequently asked questions. All the questions we expect people to ask could go here, or the full version of the user manual. The README over at the front, that's going to have the abbreviated version of the user manual. the quick start guide, and then put the full user manual on the wiki, or it's a dynamic page, more dynamic page, but still kind of permanent. But the full version of the user manual or the frequently asked questions are what goes there the most often. We will definitely see that because that's a big part of projects. Oh, projects tab's nice. So we can turn this into a project. Microsoft has made some nice updates to this one. We link to a different project or create a new project. And in the textbook, when you click the new project button, there was like 2 options, and there's only one option in the thing. When the textbook was published, there was only one option. So over last year, they've had 2 more options here. Just the Trello boards. We can set up tables. Sort of like Kanban boards. We have little cards with tasks written on them, and everybody will go. Whenever somebody finishes the task they're working on, they walk over to the board, choose another task off that, and move it over to the working section. And then when they finish that, they move it over to the finish section and grab another one from the to-do section. So like 3 sections. And we just move the little index cards back and forth, or roadmaps. It kind of combines some elements from putting it in table form and some elements from a Kanban board with a Gantt chart. Does everybody know what a Gantt chart is? Sort of a scheduling thing. Big in project management. So it's a breakdown of timeline. So it looks like this. So the first part on this one, April and March are going to be spent. That sounds like planning, vision strategy. And after that, then starts market research, perhaps a little bit of overlap. So there's still some adapting at the end. And after that, the team breaks up into these different things, and it's a schedule thing going across time. So they kind of combine, that's what the roadmap is. It kind of combines parts of the Kanban board and parts of the table into sort of a Gantt chart. Team backlogs are nice for big things, or a feature-based. You can just say, list that. So you can see we have lots of options on how to put those together. Let me click feature here. These 2 at the bottom, notice these start from scratch. It gives us 3 options. And then on templates, we actually get several things. So if I create a new feature or team backlog, or either one, it combines those 3 things in different formats. So what's the current version of it? What are we trying to get to? So 2 Kanban boards. What's it at now? Where should it be? Then one of those roadmaps for how we get from the current iteration to the next iteration. And add more stuff. Copy of what we already have, or add another board or a roadmap. And we can combine those things to make a project. And all of your team's project management stuff there. Which I don't like that view. I keep hoping they're going to update that. I always go back to the default view here because maybe just because I've seen it more often. So that official view of my account with all the repositories, I just don't like that view. So the project stuff, we will definitely look into that. And the projects, notice link a project. So a project can include several repositories, or one repository can include several projects. It's not a one-to-one match. It's one-to-one, one-to-many, many-to-many, however we want to combine them. One project could include several repositories, several or reverse of that. My tongue stumbled on the very first word. One project can include lots of repositories, or one repository can include lots of projects. However we want to set it up. That's the sort of thing I know there wasn't time for in the other class, and some of the most useful functionality on GitHub. So we're going to spend time with that. Actions tab. We're going to look at all this soon. So I know you all have seen a lot of it, but probably not dug through very much of it. And it's the end of week 3 and we're getting here. So this is deploy it. You want to launch it as a Kubernetes container, make it a Kubernetes container or a Docker container. Where's Docker? Where's Docker not at the top of the list? That's weird. Oh, there's no code on there. That's why. If I come over to this one, there's a bunch of code, so it probably doesn't have as many. Okay, so we've got better options here. So there's Python and C++ have lots of options. So it's like, okay, there's a bunch of things. Is this going to be launched as make? Is this going as a Docker? It's really weird that Kubernetes didn't make the list. Oh, it did. Okay. Kubernetes is the high-end containers. Docker is just like a cheap imitation of what Kubernetes is. We have lots more control there. We build and deploy it. There's Python in there. Do we want to publish it right to Python people so anybody can just say pip install and run it right there? Because as far as doing that, it's just a matter of clicking this button. And GitHub will send them all of the paperwork and apply to get your stuff added there. And it's pretty much an automated process. It's all automated testing. So you just click this button and wait for some automated test to run. And worst case is the automated test notify a human that will send you an email that says, please change these things before you release it. And then anybody can just go say pip install something. The one that gets most people is they want you to have really good documentation. They won't let you release it on Python unless you have really good docs with it. It's like, yeah, don't just give people a bunch of random objects and no description on how to use them. That's what gets most people. So deployment, releases afterwards. Is that overview? I usually move finished projects off of GitHub. I think I have at least one. This is a personal project, so project management software. Well, it kind of leads back into Gantt charts like I was talking about. I find those really, really useful for planning lectures and stuff. But those are set up for large projects. So the timelines are set up for days and weeks and months. But if I'm planning the class lectures, I need hours for the whole thing. So I need minutes and seconds. So I had to make my own project management software for that. I made full project management software, so it goes from seconds up to years for planning the Gantt chart and then other things. The balance, right? In class, you shouldn't be getting consistently harder because that's just going to leave people confused. As we get tired, you don't want the material to be harder. If anything, you want to introduce the hard stuff in and then get easier. So that as minds get exhausted, we're not looking at harder material. But ideally, it should be back and forth. Right? Cover something, talk about something hard, follow that up with something easy. Something hard, followed up with something easy. So I use that sort of project management tools when I'm planning my lectures. But I had to make my own because project management stuff usually doesn't get down to the second. But I did do a release on this. So that shows up on the home page after you do that. It will link to the latest releases. And then I have installers for a bunch of different things. Which we will get to a release, even if it would be trivial project, we'll at least make installers and stuff at the end of the semester. I always like to do 3 installers, or really 4 things. The Windows and the Mac, obvious. And I usually do one of the Linux installers because Linux users would never run that installer. They want the source code. But I like to make one of the Linux installers to let Linux users know that I tested the software on Linux. Like, I have been tested on Linux, and the link to the source code is right down here. So it's just sort of a flag to Linux users. Yes, this has been tested on Linux. And then packages, or 2 standard installers for Mac and 2 standard installers for Windows. Set those on there, or deploy all the deployment and stuff. It handles all of it. It organizes it for us. All that project management stuff. Issues tab I use most often. For this right here, images for README. If you're in edit, you click and drag your photo over here. I'll do it on our repository. Cancel out this. I didn't mean to close that. Okay, close it different one. Yeah, I use that to bring the images in. I was looking at that one for the repository, so I'll go over the one we make it tonight. Under issues, the thing I use it most often for is pictures for the README. Do I have any pictures? Oh yeah, that one from the other day. So if you have a picture, which would normally be like a screenshot of the GUI, and with maybe draw some red arrows on your screenshot of the GUI. If you drag it over there, pictures are important for reporting bugs. So pictures are allowed here. And then we have this right here. So just copy that and submit the issue as images for README. And then back over here in the README, in edit, and paste that right into the README. So we've got those changes. Oh, we didn't hit commit, but this should look familiar, right? Have that single line, the long description, and they don't have a spot for the footer here, but if you leave a space at the end, the very last line. If the very last line is separated by the line feed at the end of the text and an empty line, then it would count as the footer. But if we're on GitHub, the footer is for automating things in the issues tab. But now README has a picture in it. That's how I like to get pictures in the README. Just put it as an issue because we have that works on all of our things, not just GitHub. Screenshots are very important for bug reports, so we're allowed to put issues in the bug report thing. And once we do that, we can copy and paste where it says the picture is right over to the README. But normally we would do those for bug reporting. That's where the bug reports go. If we come over here, you'll notice this is going to be your assignment next week. Notice that there's tags on those for all the issues that are there. I want to include one that wasn't fun to adjust. That's just some random thing. I commented about making an object or something. It's like, why don't you be object oriented? Make a class out of that or whatever. But it's not really a bug. There's a bug in there, so it's indicated as a bug. We just create a new issue and we can add these tags and make our own tags. So I'll make a new issue. Show it. Label demo. Showing off the labels. Submit this. So we got this new issue. And notice there's right over here we have assignees. I'm the only person here, so I can assign assign me to fix that issue. Right, if you have a team, when you get to your team project, I'm gonna wanna see that. Right, this is for bug reporting, so, this team member has been assigned to fix that. Then what is it? By default, they give us some labels. Maybe it's a bug. So it's a bug. Something got duplicated. Just a general question, or we can make our own. And not gonna fix this. So okay, that we can add some labels, or we can completely make our own. Is it part of the documentation? Is it a duplicate? Is it invalid? And indicate what it is. How do I get back to where it just was? Oh, and notice there's an edit button and a delete button, and a new button. So we can go through and do all those. I'm gonna get back to where it just was. Oh, yeah, there it is. So we can go in there and still edit them. Oh, something on comments, y'all have probably seen this before in forums. The forum shows a common issue or a Stack Overflow, and then lots and lots of responses say, me too. I'm having the same problem. Hey, all that, y'all have seen that before in forums, right? I'm assuming by this point in everybody's education, you've looked up stuff and got aggravated by that more than once on Stack Overflow. It's like, you see the question, it's like, oh, that's the question I looked, that's the same question I have. And then every response on there was like, oh, me too. I'm having the same issue, and nobody actually answers the question. Or you can't dig it out of all those responses. That is the reason there's an emoji button here. If you have the same one, you should be using an emoji instead of cluttering up a bug report or a forum by saying me too, you got the same issue. They only give us the happy ones. I guess like the number of people that have the same issue you can see there on the bug report. That's proper form. A lot of people don't know that, so I like to go ahead and add that in there. Oops. You see those labels show up saying what the issue is. I meant to put it right on this, not on a comment to it, but that works. It's still on there. And then all the different, oh, it's on the homework assignment. You see each issue gets its own label. Actually, if I go back to the main tab. Oh yeah, so we can see all of the labels that fit with that, and that's how we organize the bug report and assign who's going to fix it and stuff. So I want to see some of that when we get to the project management stuff. Preview mode, we're going to talk about all that in detail and get some practice with it. It's an active subject. Y'all have seen a lot of that before, but make sure you dig through all those tabs, right? We just click on every tab there in GitHub. So we're going to talk about those. Jump back to the dashboard there. Make sure you check out what all the buttons do. This view is not too bad either. It's kind of like the first one. Add descriptions, we can add that right here. Read these packages. We have complete control over everything. But so preview mode tonight. Anybody have any questions about that? We're going to talk about every one of those in detail. So you notice in preview, we click on every single tab and then click on more of the buttons there. And we have 5 weeks left in the class. So we're going to talk about this. See more stuff in Git because Git is absolutely huge. And normally what we would do is store this like it's a centralized system and then pull it down remote to our local machine, make the edits and push it right back up. So we'll see a whole lot of that, but I think everybody has seen that part before this class, right? So been a few seconds since I asked if anybody had any questions. I assume the silence means no questions. If you have any, let me know. I'm always happy to help. Don't necessarily, I think it was mentioned earlier, if you try something later in the night and get stuck, you don't have to wait for next Tuesday's class. I have much of a life outside of teaching here, except for performing administrative, the few administrative duties I have as program chair or department chair. It's pretty much my life. So if you have a question, just let me know anytime. I'm always happy to help. We can jump on a Zoom call at any point, deal with stuff. We'll find the time to meet. Otherwise, y'all have a great weekend, and I will see you on Tuesday. That 3-day weekend threw me off. I had to think about whether like this Monday or Tuesday class. See you next week.
Have a good night.